Have you thought about getting your ICF certification in order to launch or accelerate your journey to a successful coaching practice? Do you want a coaching certification but don't really know where to start or even what training is legitimate? Hey, this is Jeffrey Sui, founder of Master Coach University and CoachesTrainingBlog.com. And today I'm interviewing George Rogers, the Assistant Executive Director of International Coach Federation, that I met at a recent ICF conference. George is going to tell us the basics that you should know about ICF certification and coach credentialing. We'll discuss what is an ICF coach credential and the process that International Coach Federation provides for credentialing coaches. What are the three professional designations of a coach and the difference between them? Also, how your coaching advances from mechanical to magical as you achieve more advanced designations. George will also help us understand why is it important to a coach to get an ICF credential, and how does a new coach go about pursuing getting their ICF credential. What should a coach do to get coaching experience under their belt before they receive an ICF credential? What a new coach should do before they ever think about coaching anyone, including a paying client. And finally, what's the first step that a coach should take to start their credentialing journey? By the way, if you're on YouTube and you want to skip forward to any of these topics, all the time codes are in the description. By the way, before we start, ICF is the world-recognized standard bearer and governing body for the personal and professional coaching world. They provide internationally accepted standards for coach credential levels, as well as accreditation for coach training organizations such as Master Coach University. We're approved to provide training that fulfills ICF's requirements for coach credentialing. ICF holds international conferences annually to bring the coaching world together to collaborate with and learn from each other. And this is where I had a chance to sit down to talk to George. So let's start right now. All right, hey, this is Jeffrey Sui, Master Coach University, and I have Mr. George Rogers here, the Assistant Executive Director of ICF, International Coaching Federation, International Coach Federation. And we're on the official coaching couch for today. And I wanted to spend this time for a second to share with coaches a little bit about credentialing. And so why don't we start off with something really, really simple. What is coach credentialing? What is it?
So the ICF has a credential or credentials for individuals, and a credential really is a way of having a designation by an external body that you have been reviewed, you've had your education, your experience, your skill reviewed. So it's something that is part of professional development. It's something that is part of an assurance for your clients to let them know that you are indeed a trained coach. And it's something that more and more, we know from our research, more and more clients are asking for, individual clients as well as organizational clients are asking for their coach to hold a credential. The ICF has actually three credentials: the associate level, the professional level, and the master level. Okay. And that's kind of a path that we see people get on to continue to grow, to continue to, it's going to be used to market themselves, but really it's an outward sign that you have been vetted by an independent body, that you have knowledge and skill and experience.
How would you describe the difference between the ACC, PCC, and MCC, the associate level, the professional level, and the master level? What's your way of defining the distinctions between those?
So at the base, ACC or associate level requires a certain level of training and a certain level of experience. PCC requires more, and MCC requires even more. So there is a progression of experience and training that you have to have. A lot of people enter the ACC, you start with the ACC as kind of the entry-level credential. They are beginning to develop their coaching skills. They have knowledge. They're beginning to develop their coaching process. So it's kind of at that application, knowledge and application level.
Okay.
As they move to the PCC, coaching starts to become more fluid. They start moving away from maybe a formula, and they have a much more confident coaching practice. And at the master level, there's a lot of creativity, synthesis, a lot more depth of partnership, a lot more cumulative listening, a lot more things that are happening where a coach doesn't really have to rely. It's become almost automatic of the things that they are doing. They're so experienced and well trained.
Wow. Yeah, one of the things I notice about what seems like the ACC competencies seem like they're more obvious and direct and just like going on what's on the surface, whereas when we get to the point where it's MCC, it's almost, it's not just more not just deeper, but it seems like it's where a lot of the magic intuition of a co-created coaching conversation really comes out.
Yeah, it's kind of like any other skill that you learn. When you first learn, you rely on some structures and some formulas maybe, and as you get better at it, you're able to branch away from those and do things that really work for you and, of course, work for your clients.
Nice. So you're free from the formula, but you still are creating deeper and better results beyond what that basic level would probably provide.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Beautiful. So let me ask you this. Why is credentialing important for a coach who is not even really considered getting an ICF credential yet, even if they've had other trainings, other background, other expertise and knowledge where they can already add value to a client, let's say, or at least they believe they can, we hope. What's important to a coach about getting that credential? Why should it matter to them?
Well, again, I think it's a great test of yourself. Part of the theme of this conference has been around you don't know what you don't know. Right. So when you subject yourself or when you enter into a process where other people are going to review your coaching, and that happens through your training, it happens through mentor coaching that you may receive during your training, and it also happens through our assessment process of the testing that we do of credential applicants. You have subjected yourself or entered yourself into some external review, and we think that's really valuable for your personal growth, for your development. So even if you never use your credential as a marketing tool or anything else, having put yourself through that process, that testing process, we think is a valuable thing. We really developed kind of a threefold purpose for the credentialing program. Okay. One was to have some kind of quality assurance. So we want people who experience coaching to have the very best. So having a credential is some level of quality assurance. The other one, though, that really we think is important is it is an incentive to grow. It's an incentive to keep learning. So moving through that ACC, PCC, MCC process, and really beyond that, doesn't end at MCC. We want people to continue learning after that. That's the other purpose there.
So you are, in a way, creating a reward for us coaches, other than just the reward that is that's intrinsic to training and development and getting better, to say, hey, now I've achieved something, and I get a little bit of a carrot or a cookie after all my work.
Right. Yeah, I think for a lot of people that I've talked to, that whether they ever even intend to practice as very seriously as a coach, it's nice to have an accomplishment. It's nice to, this is something else that I have done, and they feel good about that. So there's a little bit of feel good. But most of the people I talk to, the reason they get involved in it is because they want to become better at what they do.
Nice.
And they see this as a structured way to do that.
That makes sense. I know that before I had certain levels of training and certification, that I had questions about my abilities, and I had barriers to my own confidence in what I wasn't really sure that I could do. So it seems that once a coach has that certain level of credential, they can lean on that from the perspective of knowing that they have accomplished something and that they can promise that to someone with even more confidence and assuredness because of that peer review that we're talking about.
Right.
Nice. Let me ask you this. If a coach is saying, great, that sounds like what I need, that sounds like a big part of what I need to move forward with in developing that, get on that credentialing track, how do they do it? Like how, and we know there's steps involved and they can research that and follow those. But for a new coach who has decided that this is important, that they want to go ahead and pursue a credential, what advice would you give them? How would you advise that they go ahead and move forward with that process, other than the obvious steps that they can research?
Well, I think the really important thing is that they invest in really good coach training. The ICF accredits and approves training providers that are delivering training that is aligned with the ICF definition of coaching, core competencies, code of ethics, and having that training base is really what is necessary to move forward in the credentialing process.
Nice.
Now, along with that, I think it's important for them to start developing their practice, getting to the patterns of contracting with their clients, recording their experience, so that at the time when they submit for an application to ICF for credential, they have a client log, they have training. I would also say it's important for them to work with a qualified mentor coach, someone who can listen to them coach, give them feedback. All those are requirements of the ICF credentialing process and really critical elements to them becoming a coach.
Nice. Okay, so if I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, well, wait a second, in order to practice that coaching and fill my log, shouldn't I have a credential already to kind of have permission or the support to actually run all those sessions? What do you say to that, and how do you support somebody who's thinking, well, this seems like a bit of a chicken and the egg kind of issue with I need to do this in order to get the credential, but I need the credential in order to do all that.
So I think it is kind of a chicken egg thing, but what I would encourage people to do is get part of their training going and start thinking about who they can coach and how they can deliver good services. Okay. And begin slow and start off by telling their clients that they're beginning, they're learning, they're in training. Be very transparent up front about that. That's a very ethical approach to that. Right. But also, it is part of the learning process. I mean, you're going to need to get some experience before you're just fully qualified. So we think it's okay once you've started training, and that should really be a part of the kind of the homework that comes from a training program, is that we want you to go out and start doing some coaching, start getting used to interacting with your client. And so that's the good start.
Beautiful, makes sense. So in other words, you can start slow and just being real up front. And this is one of the things I think I see with some new coaches, is their concern is that they have to put themselves out there like they already know it all, like they already are the master coach for other people, and just in order to engage, versus just going ahead and saying, look, I'm not a master of this yet, I'm just learning, but let's go ahead and move forward. And that's okay from the ICF's perspective, and for your perspective, to go ahead and, even as a novice, non-credentialed coach, to go out there and really attempt to add value and really make a difference for clients.
That's very true. And I think it's the way that people are going to learn. Again, I think get some of your training under your belt, get your clear understanding, especially of the code of ethics. I think that's a really important part that you know about before you ever touch a client. But beyond that, you're gonna be. It's a little bit of learning by doing.
Wow, really, really great. So learn by doing, and before they start that process, check out the code of ethics and make sure that they're at a minimum abiding by that.
And that should be a part of the training program as well, that they are advising you on that and talking about how you follow it, and putting you into some situations where you would have to kind of understand where you may be crossing some lines.
Beautiful. Okay, so now that we have a little bit of the step-by-step on this, and a coach has not taken any of those steps yet, what's the next piece? Should they check out ICF on the internet? Should they talk to a training provider first? What would be the very first piece, the thing that they can do like today if they're watching this?
I think look at the ICF coachfederation.org website. Okay. There is a wealth of information there about.
And what's the website again?
It's coachfederation.org.
Okay, great.
And so you can go to that website, and there is a tab that is about individual credentialing. And that will go into there's a lot of information there about the credentialing process, There's also on the ICF website a training program search service, which allows you to go in and search for training providers that have been approved or accredited by the ICF.
Nice.
And then another great resource is the staff that we have in the global headquarters. On the website, there are little pop-outs on the side where you can ask a question. There's a chat box where you can ask a question,
Oh, wow.
and someone from the staff can answer those. Maybe not immediately, but they'll get an answer back to you to help you guide you through the credentialing process.
Fantastic. So I go to coachfederation.org. I can check out the individual credentialing kind of guidance that's there on that tab. I can also reach out to somebody at ICF personally through the contact of that's within the same site.
That's correct.
Very nice. So George, thank you so much for answering these questions. I know our new coaches and our trainees are going to be, I hope, motivated and clear now as to not just what the steps are, but what this is really about for them and the clients that they're going to serve as well. So really fantastic. Anything else that you want to share that you just think is important for them to know?
I appreciate the work that you're doing, and if there's anything we can do to assist your students, we're really looking forward to doing that.
Fantastic. Likewise. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Again, this is Jeffrey Suey with CoachesTrainingBlog.com and Master Coach University. I hope that you took some great value out of my interview with ICF, International Coach Federation. So what's your credentialing level right now? How important is a credential to you, and how do you see it helping you in your coaching journey? What do you think about ICF's take on certification and credentialing? I'd love to hear your feedback, so make sure that you leave a comment with your thoughts or questions. Thanks for watching this video. Like it if you thought it was cool, and subscribe for even more of these videos. Now, if you want to learn more about the International Coach Federation, I put a link to their website in the description. And by the way, if you want my help with your own credentialing coach certification, I'm holding a webinar in a few days called Credentialing and Coach Certification. Imagine that you can attend for free. Just go to the link I give you here and in the description. For this webinar, I'm bringing in Master Coach University's own credentialing expert. He actually created the coach training standards for the US government, and he'll help you learn the details about the only internationally recognized coach credentials, how they work, and the process to obtain your credential. You can get your questions answered about international coach credentialing and learn how to get the required training to get your coach credential in as little as 3.5 months. When you sign up for the webinar, you'll also get instant access to my credentialing fact sheet so you can easily read through details to design your master plan for your certification journey. Just go to coachestrainingblog.com/become a coach /credentialing-webinar. I know that's a mouthful, so I'll give that to you again. coachestrainingblog.com/become a coach, all one word, /credentialing-webinar. Just go there right now to sign up for the webinar, get your credentialing fact sheet, and access lots of other advanced coaching and practice building techniques and more. Just go to the link that I just mentioned. I'll also give it to you here and in the description, and you can get access to everything all for free. And I'll see you there.